I'm sorry, guys. I think we can you guys hear me now? Awesome. Again, sorry about the confusion, and thanks again for joining. I'm Pranati Gumpa, and I'm a program manager here at Fieldwire. And before we begin, I would like to address a few housekeeping items. To ensure a smooth session, attendees will be muted, and please don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have in the Q&A panel. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, and we will do our best to address as many questions as we can. For any questions we don't get to, our experts will reach out to you and we'll reach out to you directly. We also have some poll questions during the webinar for you to participate in, and please feel free to select these answers. I know we've launched one. Go ahead and fill in this quick poll. Perfect. Thanks for keeping those answers coming in. And also thank you everyone for letting me know you guys cannot hear it. Sorry about that. Perfect. We have another quick poll here for you. And there we go, the next poll question. Got it. Okay, sorry for the confusion. You just filled the second poll question, and thank you so much. Okay, no more confusion. Without further ado, let's welcome our Construction Success Manager, Ben Haddock.
Hey everybody, my name is Ben Haddock. I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Fieldwire. Been here at Fieldwire now for almost 5 years. So really my role is partnering with our largest customers as the product expert to make sure new project teams that purchase Fieldwire are enabled with how to use all the features and really optimize their usage of Fieldwire. Today I'll be doing a demonstration in the Fieldwire product, really acting as an electrical subcontractor that's working in as a prefab shop manager. So looking forward to showing you all that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. Now let's go over a quick agenda. So we'll just go over the overview of the session right now, and then Ben will take us through how to use Fieldwire in prefabrication, and then we'll have a quick Q&A at the end of the session. Also, the session is getting recorded. I'm going to send you guys the recording and the link to the presentation deck at the end of this. But feel free to add any questions you have in the Q&A panel. Awesome. So before I get into this webinar today, I want to quickly talk about webinars. We have webinars once a month. We have our next webinar, which is about 2025 vision of Fieldwire and also any year-end product updates. Also, we have this content on our website and our YouTube channel. So please feel free to go ahead and visit if you want to just go back and look at any of our past webinars. Awesome. So as you all know, we have a ton of features within Fieldwire, but today's presentation is really going to focus on tasks, plans, forms, specifications, and photos. Awesome. So let's get this thing kicked off. And just before that, I have one more quick poll question for you guys. Awesome. Keep those answers coming. Do you currently use Fieldwire tasks? Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for that. Awesome. Let's get this thing kicked off. And Ben, can you walk us through how you set up the project for prefab?
Awesome, thanks Pranati. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna switch over to a Fieldwire project that I've created. Awesome. So as I mentioned previously, I'm going to be acting as a prefab shop manager working for an electrical subcontractor. So I'm already able to leverage my existing company project structure pretty well. I'm going to make some simple modifications to make it work really great for prefab. So starting off on the plans tab, I just created a couple really simple folders that house my shop drawings for prefabrication. So I've got my prefabrication electrical shop drawings and my prefabrication spools shop drawings. So this is really great because it creates a dedicated place where in the prefab I'm able to collaborate on the shop drawings. Now moving over to tasks, I made a couple simple modifications to be able to track prefabrication items separately from the other existing workflows that I already have as an electrical subcontractor. So the way that you can see this here is on the left-hand side, I've got my categories for my project. I already have my existing workflows already in place. So as an electrical sub, I'm managing these processes for fire systems, for example. My rough-in is managed within Fieldwire still. And if I wanted to view those on the project, I still would be able to just by selecting the category. For example, right now, I'm just looking at rough-in. But for the focus today, we're going to focus on the prefabrication processes. So I'll just go ahead and select prefabrication, and that'll pull up this Kanban view for all my prefabbed items, including things like motor assemblies, server racks, lighting whips, panel boxes, cable trays. And the focus for today, the example is going to be an electrical skid, and we're going to walk you through how that skid can be taken from the not started state all the way through to being shipped to the project site.
That's great, Ben. That's nice to see that you're tracking prefab on the same project. The field is tracking all of their work too. So do you change these statuses for yourself or use the same statuses that the field uses?
Yeah, so when we first set up our project for electrical projects, we intentionally made the statuses general so that we'd be able to manage multiple workflows on the same project. So for example, on this project, we're managing proactive workflows, such as like rough-in and tracking progress for rough-in. And we're also managing reactive workflows, like tracking issues that come up on the project. So because the statuses are general enough, we're able to really quickly add a prefabrication process and be able to track that information. So you can see I've got prefabrication, and then I also have prefabrication issues that come up that are also related to the prefab process.
Got it. Also, you were mentioning about this electric skid task. Can you show us an example of that and maybe walk us through your process?
Yep, definitely. So I put together an electrical skid task just to show as an example that walks through these statuses. So let me just open this one up. So I've got this electrical skid here. I'm going to pull it up just so you can kind of see the flow and kind of how we visualize this process going from start to finish. So first, you've got your electrical skid. This is going to be in room 707. You'll notice that there's a few related tasks here, which is really great because it's helped to interconnect the other prefabrication items that are actually happening in that room. So you've got your motor assembly that's also related to this room 707, server racks, your low voltage data conduits, and we're going to be tracking the completion of the electrical skid. As I mentioned before, it's kind of nice because I'm able to track this prefab process with my existing project. So you could even see the rough-in progress here, which is really nice because your rough-in is really not going to be able to get completed until this electrical skid is completed. Yep, so moving down here, we also have a checklist. So this checklist is specific to prefab for an electrical skid. So of course, depending on the type of equipment you're prefabricating, you would be able to customize these checklists to your liking. And what's great about the checklists is you're able to just really track the completion of progress from start to finish, and it's time-stamped, and it has a really nice visual. So your team would be able to open this up and see how far along in the process your prefab item is. We also have a form here. In this case, I know a lot of clients that we work with occasionally have their own format that they really require the forms. So Fieldwire actually recently came out with a fillable PDF feature where you can take fillable PDFs and actually just convert them into forms. So this example here is an electrical QC form that needs to be completed, and I'll just open it up so you all can see it. So it basically takes that structure of my existing PDF form and creates a fillable PDF that you'll be able to complete, add the information for the QC. Everyone's going to be able to reference this on the project. And what's really nice too is it's also attached to my electrical skid task. So you really have all the information in one place. And this form is something that's going to be tied to this task through the completion of the prefabrication process. So it's a really great resource for anyone that's involved in the prefab process. So other thing I wanted to mention too, pretty straightforward, but of course you can attach photos of the progress of your skid, time-stamped so that you can track the completion of it. If this takes a few days or even a few weeks, you've got a really nice photo record as it's going through the process. So you can of course also include shop drawing, crop plans, markups, and then because I've included specifications on this project, I can reference them as well. And then any collaboration that happens, maybe there's something missing or there's a defect on the skid, this can be conversations that can all be contained here within this task. So it's a really data-rich area to collaborate and solve problems. Other thing I wanted to mention too is this prefab process also has some custom attributes specific to prefab. So for example, we've got here an on-hold reason. Maybe for whatever reason, this piece of equipment can't move on to the next stage. You maybe have identified during the QC process that there's damage. So you could specify, what is the on-hold reason? Maybe you have needs for BIM, for example. You can also track things like equipment number, serial number, MAC IP addresses. These are things that are really nice to gather well in advance of the construction project. When it kind of goes out on site and people get busy, this is a really good time to start collecting data.
That's interesting to see. So maybe can you just go over how are you exactly tracking this missing information? Is it just this, or do you do other stuff around the missing information?
Yeah, great question. So let's say you're on this task, and in a real world example, maybe it's on hold for whatever reason. So really, a really simple way to track that in Fieldwire is to basically take this task and move it to the on hold state. So I can take my statuses here and take it from in progress to, okay, this is now an on hold task. So this is really nice so that if I wanted to reference all my prefab items that are blocked for whatever reason, I know that this task is on hold. And the nice thing is I have an on hold reason too. And in this case, there's BIM needs. So there's maybe communication internally that there's something that you need to address with BIM.
Got it. Also, when you go back to your Kanban view, I saw that you have a ton of tasks for prefab. How do you create these tasks?
Yeah, great question. So you don't have to create them all at once. You can create them all in bulk. So we've got this task importer where you can take a spreadsheet. So if you've got a list of equipment, maybe prefab equipment that you have that you know that you need to complete on your project, you can create a spreadsheet just like this. So you can see here in the first column, I've got all the prefab items that I want to be tracking the installation of. And then I'm able to basically take this information here, copy it, go back to my import tasks feature, and then I can paste it into the importer, and then really quickly import tasks. And within seconds, I would have this all built out and ready to go. Obviously, if you were to import this, they'd all be in the not started state, but maybe you already have some items in progress. You can actually recreate it as I've shown here.
That's interesting to see. Another thing I'm curious about, especially when you talked about your categories initially, you also said you've created this prefabrications issues as a category. Can you maybe describe a little bit on when do you use that category versus when you use prefabrication?
Yep, great question. So let's go back to that task here. So let's say as I'm putting together this skid, I've identified an issue. Maybe there's something that's broken. Maybe there's a bracket that's broken from the vendor. You can create a related task, like add new task, or you can even reference an existing task on the project. What I'll do is I'll just create a new task, and so you can say broken broken bracket, really simple. And then you'd be able to categorize that as a prefabrication issue and then assign it to the person that needs to address that problem.
Got it. So once this prefabrication is done, how do you ensure that it is delivered to the site?
Yeah, so great question. So as I'm taking this skid through to completion, of course, you're going to have all your checklist items done. So you'll do your quality checks, you'll do your functional testing, and then I'm going to want to actually pass this over to the project manager that's out on site. So what I would do is I would say, hey, this electrical skid is completed in the fabrication shop. As I've shown here, the checklist items are done. And what I would do is I would take this and assign it to the PM that's going to be receiving this skid. So in this example, I'll assign it to Josh Kienzle. He's going to receive a notification on his iPad, and he'll see, okay, the electrical skid is ready to be delivered. Then I would actually Josh would then go to the task once he receives the shipment, go to form, and then attach a prefab equipment received form. So when he receives the equipment, he'll be able to go into this form, open it, and then fill out the information. So he'll be able to include his first and last name, include his phone number, select the equipment number, the equipment vendor, depending on what vendor shipped that equipment, select the type of equipment. So if you're receiving a motor assembly, lighting whips, cable trays, whatever it is, the different prefabricated components that you have on your project, you'll be able to select from those, and then include your date received, and then sign off that you've received it. So once you've done the sign off, you would submit this form, and then this task would move from the completed state to the verified state.
Got it. So basically from your completed to verified, you're just making sure your prefab is delivered to the site. The person who's taking the delivery is putting his own signature on the receivable form so that you're like, okay, this is off my hands.
Exactly. So I think the idea here really is so that you've got a one place where all the information related to this prefabrication was included. So if you open up this task, you're able to see the QC form, you're able to see that it was officially received from the project. Any of the back and forth information you're able to reference as well. And then if I actually jump into the plan link, so you can see here, this is where the prefab shop was collaborating on this electrical schematic. And you've got this really nice Fieldwire database here where you're able to reference the task. You've got all the information from the prefab process and then all the other relevant hyperlinks that you've got. So for example, you've got your specifications, your QC form, and then you can even reference the other plans that you might need to look at. So for example, if you need to look at your layout drawings, you could reference those as well.
Got it. Also, let's say you're sending this skid to the job site, right? How does an installer know where exactly does the skid go?
Yep, great question. So if I were to open that task right back up and scroll down here, you can see that in this photo, there's a QR code that's attached directly to the equipment. These QR codes, when you're in the prefabrication shop, can be really easily generated from Fieldwire. So to do that, if I just wanted to scroll down to this share icon, I can export it as a QR code. If you haven't, so once you export it as a QR code, your team will be able to take the full QR code image and actually paste it to the equipment. And then once it's pasted to the equipment, your team would be able to scan that and it'll immediately take them to this individual skid task. And then of course, they've got all the information so they could quickly reference the location on the plan drawings.
Got it. Oh, that actually makes it really easy. So also, how do you keep a track of when are these delivery dates and when do you have to start and things like that?
Yeah, so all these items that I have here, if they're included a start and end date on the project, they're going to show up in the calendar view. So if you flop over to the calendar view on the upper right-hand corner, you can see all these items in room 707 have start and end dates. So my electrical skid here started on Wednesday, completed on Friday. Let's say maybe I need a couple more days. It's really easy for me to adjust those. So this is really nice to be able to view, all of these prefab items related to this room 707 all in one place.
Got it. That's really nice to see. So basically, from what I'm understanding, then you're using the same project as the field, and you're going ahead and creating these two new categories for your prefabrication, and just using the same statuses, creating a bunch of new tasks that are needed for your prefab, and then just tracking all of your prefab within the same project so that
Yep.
the data is accessible for the job site as well to see where exactly things are in the shop, right?
Yep, exactly right. And the idea with that is to, still be able to interact with the existing construction process. So you want to be able to have teams that can communicate to each other. And the best way to do that is to use an existing project that already has a process in place.
Got it. That totally makes sense. But I also know that you're not just doing one job in the fab shop, right? So how do you basically keep a track of all the jobs at once when you're setting up this process within an individual job?
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. So because I kept it simple and just included categories for prefabrication issues, it's really easy for me to replicate those categories across all of my projects. So what that does is it creates a standardized way to be able to collect data from all the different projects through our Power BI dashboard. So Fieldwire has a Power BI integration that you're going to be able to visually view progress of these prefabricated tasks across all of your projects. So to kind of show you what that looks like, let me go back to the screen here. So this is a view of the Power BI dashboard. This is a task overview. So you'd be able to load up all the different projects where you have prefabricated units and be able to filter for that prefab category and be able to view progress across all of your projects. So you're able to see, which projects have prefabricated items, which are, ahead of progress, which are more overloaded than others. So this gives you a really nice executive dashboard to be able to view all this information.
Got it. This totally makes sense. Awesome. That's a great process. And before we go into the Q&A, let's go ahead and do our last poll question here. And also keep adding any questions you might have into the Q&A panel on the right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ben, for going over this workflow and showing it in action on your project. So now let's go ahead and kickstart with our first question today. The question is, can a simple report be pulled with the status per project every week?
Great question. And the answer is definitely yes. So because you've created a category for prefabricated items, you're able to really quickly generate a task report that's just filtered for that prefab category. When you create a detailed task report, all you need to do is make it so that it's delivered once a week, and Fieldwire will just go through all those tasks that you've created on your project and just find those prefabrication categorized items, and you can have that automatically sent out. You could have the report sent to yourself, sent to people on your projects, or you could even send it to folks that are not even on your Fieldwire account. So it's a really great way to really quickly pull all that information and review it.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you. Maybe would you take a second and just show it on your project as to how you can like just create that report?
Yep. So if I go to my project here, I can select generate reports, and I'll go to new report, PDF detailed. I'll title it prefabrication, and I'll select my category for prefabrication here. And then maybe I'll select the ones that have been verified. So I'll go through and select my status for just the verified tasks. I could have it sent to myself. And then if you want it scheduled on a regular basis, you could select the weekly scheduling, choose the day of the week, and then it'll generate that report for you. So the report will just create a PDF of all the information and consolidate it in one place.
Got it. Thank you for showing that on your project. Another question we have here is, how do I put a task onto a page of my drawings? Like how do I basically link a task to a plan?
Yeah, great question. So what we'll do here is we'll just jump over to the same task, and I'll link to the drawing where it's located. So if I were to create a new task in this location, maybe I'm working on an issue that came up in this part of the plan here, I can select the task pin on the markup toolbar, select it, and just drop it directly on the location. And then I can create the task.
Got it. Thank you so much. Another question we have is, can you explain the QR code process again?
Definitely. So to generate a QR code, I'll just go back to the task view, and I can return to my electrical skid task. So here, if I scroll down, I pulled an example of a piece of equipment that has a QR code attached to it. And I pulled this just because I wanted to show how easy it is for Fieldwire to generate a QR code that takes field teams directly to the location within Fieldwire, and it'll actually bring them directly to this task. So if I wanted to create that QR code, all I need to do for this individual task is I could select share and then click export QR code, and that'll generate a QR code for me really fast. So you can see here, this is a QR code that I'd be able to print out and paste it directly on the piece of equipment. And then when this piece of equipment is taken to the job site and to the project team members will be able to scan this with their phones, and it'll take you directly back to this task, which has all the information related to this equipment that's kind of gone through the fabrication process. So they suddenly have a nice database of information, including any plan links, and all the collaboration related to this piece of equipment is all here for the folks that are installing it in the field.
Got it. Thank you. The next question we have is, how do I put up a change order onto my drawings?
Great question. Yeah, so if I were to go to a drawing here, so you'd be able to essentially like link different types of attachments here to this plan. So if you have a change order, for example, that's saved within your files section, maybe you have a change order response from your customer, you'd be able to save that in your files tab. You can see here I've got an approved change order actually here in my files. So I could go to the equipment location, select the hyperlink, attach a plan, and then link my change order directly to this drawing. And then this change order would be able to get referenced in the field.
Got it. Thank you so much. So another question we have is, when you basically talked about the Power BI dashboard for several projects, it is definitely an additional service that they're paying for the APIs. But is there a way they can generate multiple projects task report or like prefab task report just within Fieldwire?
Great question. The answer is yes. So you can export the raw data really easily from Fieldwire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the home page. So right now I'm in an individual project, but I'm going to go back to the Fieldwire homepage. This is a really great question. So if I look here on the upper left-hand corner, we have this Generate Reports button. So what this does is it's allowing me to select multiple projects at once. So I can create a new report. We'll create the report and maybe just call it prefab data. I can then go and select the projects that I've created that are specific to prefabrication. So I'll just maybe select a few here. So you'd go through and find projects where you have a prefab process. And then this report will basically spit out a spreadsheet that you can also schedule on a regular basis, or you can just download it on one go. And it'll give you a spreadsheet if you, and then you can of course filter for the prefab category and just see that data in the spreadsheet.
Got it. Thank you so much. Can you go into your calendar screen, or can you go back into your project and show us how you can get into your calendar screen and how you can like change the task dates?
Definitely. So I'm going to go back to the task view. So it'll pull up the Kanban view on the project. And on the upper right-hand corner, I can go over to the calendar view here. I can select the calendar view and see the tasks that already have start and end dates. If you want to adjust the start and end dates, there's a couple different ways you can do it. One, you can just like simply drag these. So you can like shorten it, extend it, whatever you need to do. You can even move it to a different week. Or you can actually open the task itself and then adjust the start and end dates here in the attributes. Another thing I wanted to mention too is if these tasks actually don't have start and end dates here, they'll show up on the right side underneath this task window. So you see you have all these different prefab items here in this bar. Maybe you want to give them a start and end date. You can just select them and then drag them directly onto the calendar. You can see I just dragged the server rack onto December 3rd, and then you can adjust the dates that way.
Got it. Thank you so much. And another question here we have is, what if there is no internet or cell service? Will all the changes upload once the service is accessed? Can you basically record them without the internet, and how does that work?
Yeah, so great example. When I was actually kind of working on creating this presentation, I actually didn't have Wi-Fi because I was working on an airplane. We didn't have Wi-Fi at the time, and I was able to make all the changes I needed to my forms, create the tasks, add information to them. And as soon as I took my laptop into Wi-Fi, all that information loads up and then syncs. So it's not a problem. If you can imagine for a contractor out on site, they don't have Wi-Fi, it'll just sync up once they load back in the office.
Got it. Is it possible to print multiple QR codes onto a sheet of paper, or like a sheet of labels basically?
Yeah, definitely. So if you want to create multiple QR codes, you can do that. So I showed you an individual task, but you can select multiple tasks here. So I can select, these 7 tasks or so, select actions, and then export QR codes. And what that's going to do, it's going to email me a single sheet with 8 different QR codes on it.
Got it.
And I want to mention too, those QR codes, you can also generate them for drawings as well. So I showed you a task example, but you can do the exact same thing for multiple plans or an individual plan. So you can export the QR code in the exact same way for a single plan or multiple plans.
Awesome. Also, can you go over your task importer again and just describe it? Is it like a spreadsheet that you fill out, and can you use the same task importer or same spreadsheets for multiple projects? Can you just give us a little bit of brief on task importer?
Definitely. So I'll go ahead and go back to the task importer here. And the task importer, let me just select it here and I can walk you through it. So the column headers, those all represent the attributes within an individual task. So you can see on this project, I've got attributes like on hold reason, equipment number, serial number. Those are attributes that are specific to this project. And as long as I have the same standardized process across all of my projects where I'm using the same prefab settings, you can use the spreadsheet on all of those projects. So I actually went and created this spreadsheet to match my task importer. And that just makes it really easy to just copy and paste directly into here. So I can take this information and just really easily drop this and copy it into here because my column headers match. So as long as the projects all have the same attributes and you're using our project template feature, which we can go into maybe in another time, there's no issues with using the same spreadsheet on all your projects.
Got it. Thank you for showing the whole task importer side of things. Another question we have is, can you see a visual progress view of where your installation process is? Like maybe can you just give us an idea of your Kanban view and how do you like sort the tasks out and how do they move through your statuses?
Definitely. So I'll just filter back to just looking at prefab to make it a little bit simpler. So of course, each piece of equipment in the prefab flow is going to start in the not started state. Hopefully, there's no reason for it to go on hold, but it may be tracked from not started to in progress, for example. In the in progress state, maybe you are, if I were to just open this up, maybe I'll include a checklist for fabrication. There's maybe a number of things that you need to do before it's ready for inspection. So you're doing just your fabrication. So your installers are going in, making sure everything is fitting together correctly. You're referencing the drawings and referencing the specs. You're doing your integrations with the various equipment that you need to do. And then before it gets into the inspection state, you would move it from in progress to ready for inspection. And then in that inspection status, that would be when you're doing your quality checks, doing your functional testing, make sure that the system is operating according to the design parameters that the project has set. And you're definitely loading your inspection form that you have for that phase before it's ready for actually shipment to the project.
Got it. Thank you so much. Another question we have is, at the end there you showed all the projects, all the tasks of all projects, right? Like basically your Power BI dashboard slide.
Yep.
Can you show that slide again and maybe quickly explain how do you export that data, or basically how do you integrate with Power BI?
Definitely. So let me just go back to this screen here. So here's the Power BI integration. So if you have access to our API, this is something that is out of the box with Power BI. We have these templates pre-set up for you. So you can see on the left-hand side, these are 4 different templates that we have as default. So as soon as you turn on your Power BI connection, you've got people, projects, checklist items, and forms already created for you. And then what you would do is you would import the different projects that you're visualizing across your company. And when you import those projects, then you'd be able to filter for the categories that are consistent across those projects. So for example, if I've got a prefabrication category that's consistent across those projects, I could select prefab and then view all the projects and then see all the relevant tasks on that project. And it works the same way for people, checklist items, and forms too. So if you wanted to get a visual of, all of my inspection forms for prefab across all of my projects, this would be a dashboard where you could visualize that and see that information.
Got it. Can you maybe also just quickly show the integrations tab on Fieldwire and just the Power BI integration from there?
Yep, so I'll go ahead and go back to the home page here. And you can see from the home page, we've got this integrations tab. So if I select the integrations tab, you can see this is an introduction, but I'll X out of that. And you see we have this Microsoft Power BI option here. In order to get the connection to Power BI, you need to have Fieldwire's API enabled on the account. And then you'll be able to go through the instructions to download the connector and then create that integration from your Fieldwire project to Power BI.
Got it. Thank you. We're almost coming up to time. I'll ask one last question here for you. When you're generating those reports, what if I don't want to have my messages of a task? Can I not select that and just have photos show up and not my messages?
Awesome question. The answer is yes, you can do that. So if I go back to my generate reports module here, I'll go to generate reports and I'll just go back to my prefabrication report that I set up. So I'll go to prefabrication. On the left-hand side of this report is all the information that you're choosing to include in the report, or maybe more importantly, choosing not to include. So if I don't want to include messages in my report, I can just deselect that and keep it simple. I can even remove other information as well. Maybe if I just want photos, but not include, the other equipment attribute data like equipment number and serial number, you can deselect those and pare it down to exactly kind of what matters to you in the report.
Got it. Thank you so much for the session today, Ben. And thank you everyone for attending today. We will send you guys a recording of this and also the deck. And feel free to ask or revert back with any questions you might have. And I'm just hoping this session was useful for you guys. And we would really appreciate if you could just stay over for a couple of minutes after this and just answer our survey. It really helps us to plan these webinars and bring great content for you guys. Thanks again and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.